Hi, I suppose I better introduce myself first. My name is Danelle Batty and I'm Australian, so I come from Australia. I actually live in a little place called Tasmania, and that's a state that's an island that sits below the main continent of Australia, the main country. And it's a small state, and I think there's about 500,000 people who live in that state, so it's got a small population in comparison to, say, other countries and states and territories and that type of thing around the world. Our flag for Australia has the Union Jack on it, and it also has 6 stars. The Union Jack represents our history. We were and this is a bit of a contentious sort of concept. We were settled by the British in the early 1700s, and as a result of that we became a penal colony. As a result of being settled by the British, we were seen as a really great spot to become a penal colony, and so consequently Tasmania was settled as that, and we had a great big jail down the southern part of Tasmania. It was quite horrible, as in the climate was quite unpleasant and that type of thing. So because Australia is such a broad country and it's covering a vast amount of land, we actually have the Northern Territory, which is the top part of Australia, and that is in it's close to the equator, so that experiences a very different climate to, say, Tasmania, which is down the bottom, down south. So in the Northern Territory they have tropical weather, so they have 2 seasons, essentially wet and dry, whereas Tasmania has 4 seasons, so we go through autumn, winter, spring and summer. So that's just a little bit about our country and our history in relation to the flag and the Union Jack being on it. We have 6 stars that sit on our flag, and they represent the states of Australia. So we have 6 states. We have Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia, Western Australia. We also have 2 territories, Northern Territory and the Australian Capital Territory. So they're sort of not as independent as the other states are. There's a lot of contention over our flag at different times in our history. Some people have wanted it changed, and some people are wanting our country to become a republic and break away from our connection with Britain and the Queen. So that's an interesting discourse that's happening in our country from time to time. It usually raises its head around the time we have elections. So moving on to our food. The food is amazing because we have so much, I suppose, in the way of different types of foods that have been brought in because of the way that we have been settled, and I do use that in inverted commas because our traditional landowners are the Aboriginal people, and it's taken a long time to recognise them as people and have rights as every other person in Australia, and also to recognise the fact that some of their heritage has been lost because of what they would term as invasion has occurred. So our food is quite vast and has huge variety. When we think of purely Australian food, and in the last 200 years in relation to that, then what stands out as purely Australian would be Vegemite, which is a spread that we put on toast, and it is really strongly salted. So if you haven't had it before, you won't like it, but do try it. It's really interesting. It was introduced to babies. So when it was first created, what would happen was a mother would take their baby along to the Child Health Centre, and the Child Health nurse would run it around their mouth, and that's how they developed a taste for it. Lamingtons are the other truly Australian food, and lamingtons are awesome. It's cake dipped in chocolate icing with coconut around the outside. Yummy as. Now when we come to music, oh look, the 80s were a big time for Australian music. So AC/DC were a huge rock band. Then we have songs like I Come From a Land Down Under. Out of that we've then had Kylie Minogue strike up, and become a real star in Britain as well and across the world. Our language is English, yet we have many people who speak many languages because of our heritage. We have a huge number of people who have come from other countries and settled in Australia for different reasons. They may have come as immigrants wanting a new life. They may be refugees. So we have a really amazing mix of cultures as a result of that. My favourite thing, oh my goodness, in relation to Australia, my favourite thing is the outdoors. I love going to the beach, I love going to the bush, I love exploring. It's a great place to be outdoors. Because of the weather, we don't have significant extremes like you see in other countries like the US during winter. We have mild winters in comparison to some other places, so you can still get outdoors in the middle of winter, although you need to be careful. Differences between the US and Australia, oh, they are huge, but you don't realise what they are until you're immersed in the culture, because they are subtle. And those subtleties make such a difference. Just the language, the pronunciation of words is really quite a struggle for me at times. And then the word usage. And then above and beyond that is the historical factors that create our culture and what's important to us. And so we haven't encountered a revolution. So that's something that is unique to, say, America, where you've got the North and the South and that whole concept there. We've encountered a different path to forming our nation, and I think that's significant in the fact that we are very different in our culture, and we're not as patriotic as a result. And I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I think it's actually something that identifies us as uniquely Australian. We joke around, we like to have a laugh, we like to have a good drink every now and then, and you know, we celebrate ourselves as people in the fact that we're a little bit anti, I suppose, authority as well. So I guess in those ways we're a little bit different to America, and I think that's so hinged on the fact that the way we were created as a nation, the way we came together and the way we have built ourselves from our past to now has certainly impacted that. Thank you.